After the release of Thor Ragnarok, director Taika Waititi met with Marvel to discuss the production of a potential fourth film, and after the positive response to the third one, the fourth was greenlit for production in July 2019 for a release date of November 2 years later. Chris Hemsworth hadn't initially planned on returning for a fourth movie, and said that he would only consider doing so if the script was good. Then he received the script, read it, and said, "That paycheck though!"
This is going to hurt.
Hemsworth later said that he would continue to play Thor for as long as possible, crediting Waititi with revitalizing his interest in the role after he became exhausted and underwhelmed with it prior to making Ragnarok. Along with Waititi and Hemsworth, another confirmed returning cast member was Natalie Portman, who hadn't appeared in Ragnarok because they all forgot she existed. But she agreed to return after just one meeting with Waititi, who agreed to give her complete creative freedom when it came to the development of her character. Then she received the script, read it, and said, fuck it, that paycheck though!
I will figure this out by myself.
When it came to writing the story, Waititi claimed that he had no interest in just repeating what had worked with Ragnarok. So you didn't want it to be good. Wanting to instead make this one fresh and new in order to keep his creativity reignited. It was also heavily inspired by two storylines in Jason Aaron's Mighty Thor comics. One in which Thor tries to stop Gorr the God Butcher from killing all the gods while suffering from a crisis of faith, and one in which Jane Foster gains control of Mjolnir and becomes a superhero called the Mighty Thor after being diagnosed with cancer, bringing in Jennifer Caton Morrison to help rewrite the initial draft, and even inviting Aaron himself to serve as a consultant on the film. By mid-2020, 5 drafts of the screenplay had been written, and Waititi said that the movie was becoming over the top in the best possible way, wanting to up the ante compared to Ragnarok, and said that he made the movie as though, and I quote, "a bunch of 10-year-olds told us what should be in a movie and we said yes to every single thing." I wonder why this one was poorly received.
I have a few ideas.
When casting the villain as Gorr, Christian Bale was offered the role from the get-go, but he initially wasn't interested in doing another comic book movie after playing Batman, seeing the entire genre as uninteresting from an acting perspective. However, he later agreed to take part in this film after being impressed by Waititi's previous movies, and after his kids pestered him to take on the role. However, Bale hated the experience of making this film, particularly working on green screens, as he was often filmed on his own without any of his co-stars having to interact with things that weren't there, calling the entire experience the definition of monotony. Furthermore, Gorr was drastically changed from the comics. Originally, he was a hideous alien with a bulbous, noseless face, fangs, head tails, and a disheveled look. However, Waititi felt that he bore too strong a resemblance to Lord Voldemort, and so Gorr's appearance was altered using makeup instead of CGI to avoid unnecessary comparisons.
The horror.
Jeff Goldblum was also originally supposed to reprise his role as the Grandmaster, as was Peter Dinklage, who would have reprised his role as Eitri from Infinity War. And though both filmed scenes, they were ultimately cut from the theatrical release.
It's tough.
Filming ran from January to June 2021, and Thor Love and Thunder was released on July the 8th the following year. Though the movie was a financial success, making $760 million worldwide, most reviews were pretty unenthusiastic. Bale's performance and some of the action was praised, whilst the script and overabundance of humour was heavily critiqued, many deeming the movie a lesser clone of its more successful predecessor. The problem with this movie is that it exists. But if you ignore that part, it has about 5 jokes. So don't you worry, if you don't laugh at the first one, they will use it over and over again. You have plenty of opportunities to chuckle. For instance, do you find it funny to hear goats scream?
Oh, look at that! You guys...
Do you find it funny to pretend that Thor is in a relationship with his hammer and that she's cheating on him with Jane and then his axe gets jealous?
You're some piece of work. What? Listen, we good?
Do you find it funny when Korg accidentally says the wrong name?
Jodie Foster. An Earthwoman named Jane Fonda.
Did you find it funny when previously they had a cheap play reenacting Loki's death? Well, have it again! The movie repeats everything they think will get a laugh, but at this point it makes Thor look like a damn parody film. They even make fun of their own franchise. They are actively saying, look, we know we're shit now, but we don't care!
And his brother. And his brother again. And again.
And even when it's not a running joke, the humour is so painful.
Look up there, guys. That's the Cronin god, Ninny of the Nonny.
And don't get me wrong, with the sheer amount of jokes that they throw at you, one of them's bound to stick eventually.
Oh, I hate to break it to you, but for a warrior to get into Valhalla, you have to die in the battle. You survived.
Oh, shit.
And flick.
Okay, now Natalie Portman.
Take off their disguise too.
Oh, no, don't click us.
Oh, sexist. Christian Bale is fucking incredible in this. I didn't even realise it was Christian Bale. He confronts this god for help in resurrecting his daughter, and the god has these weird flower gods as his laughing henchmen. Is this Thor or the fucking Teletubbies? The movie comes across as a 50-year-old man trying to be down with the kids. They seem to think if you just throw heavy rock music over the top, it's edgy and badass. Oh yeah, turn him into Chris Jericho, that'll work. The music is possibly the most annoying part because it suggests the film is a lot more epic than it actually is. Look at this, he does the splits to stop two enemies and it's treated like this big badass moment, but it's quite possibly the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And I saw Tony Stark pissing in a suit. I mean, they have Thor, the god of thunder, ride a fucking broomstick. Thor rides a broomstick. Why is Thor riding a broomstick? So, they do decide to cover some of Thor's character here. They go over his loss from his father, mother, brother, friends, Avengers, breaking up with Jane.
They either die a grismal death or they dump you with a handwritten letter. I don't know which is worse, but it's why I keep everyone at arm's length.
So in a way, it does actually have a lot more character development in this than in the entirety of Endgame, but then it's immediately dropped. For the rest of the film, he's just kind of chilling. You don't really get the sense that this guy is actually grieving other than over Natalie Portman. And Jane just shows up as Lady Thor with no explanation really. She has cancer in a happy Marvel film and then claims that the hammer called to her. We get a flashback to their relationship and breakup, which looks like it belongs on an episode of Neighbours, not a fucking Marvel movie. But in this montage, Thor asks the hammer to look after her. So, she's a superhero now. Rob, have my gun. Thanks. That's literally how it pans out. She shows up, has superpowers, Thor's like, hang on, and then that's it. We're supposed to just accept it. Remember how big a deal it was that Cap was actually finally able to lift up the hammer after years of build-up? Oh my god, he's finally worthy. Well, fuck that. Jane just shows up and be like, sup guys? I'm a superhero now, what the fuck? The movie constantly makes up shit as it goes along. Thor can now assign the hammer to people, it can heal people, and then it turns out the hammer is somehow preventing Jane's body from fighting the cancer cells. Thor can now somehow transfer his powers to other people. None of this matters. They can write and do whatever the fuck they want now. If Thor can transfer his powers, why didn't he just do this in the last film? Give all of the Avengers your superpowers. You would have been able to defeat Thanos like that. What the hell?
You think I really should be coming? I'm not getting any better.
You're a Thor, of course you should come.
Yeah, they also keep referring to Jane as a Thor. Even though Thor's just his name, it was never referred to as like a race of people before. Oh yeah, Jane, yeah, she's a Thor. Me? I'm more of a Bruce Banner. They try to give her comedy where she attempts to be a badass superhero but messes up the one-liners and acts all awkward, but it doesn't really fit her character.
So I was thinking, when we get to the bad guy, what about if I had like a cool catchphrase like, eat this hammer, bang!
Did they mess up the script and confuse her with Ant-Man or Spider-Man? Even when she tries to be badass, it doesn't work.
What's a necro sword?
It's an ancient weapon that's been passed through hands since the dawn of time. It has the ability to slay gods.
I mean, your dad, mum and bro were all killed without it, so... He finds his mate's kid, who is a terrible actor.
Hey, how's it going, kids?
How's it going? Look where we are. I'm scared. We all are.
Christian Bale has kidnapped them all to lure Thor out to get his axe, but it's okay because they have a flawless plan.
What's Omnipotent City?
It's the home of the most powerful gods in the universe.
Which you didn't ask for their help against Thanos because... I think all of the most powerful gods in the universe could have been helpful. Bale torments the kids and it is pretty fucked up, I'm not gonna lie. He's the highlight of the entire film and is completely wasted. I wish I was wasted. Although he looks like any emo kid from the early 2000s, or Jared Leto had a kid with Chris Angel. They meet Zeus, who is unfortunately played by Russell Crowe, and it wouldn't be a Russell Crowe performance without a terrible accent.
Where are we going to hold this year's orgy?
Yay! It was actually Crow's idea to have Zeus speak with a Greek accent. Waititi wanted a British accent for the Greek god, so he had Crow do every take once in the Greek accent and once with a British one. He then determined that Crow was right and the Greek accent worked best. Did it though? He just drags the movie even further down than it already was.
My lightning bolt is called Thunderbolt. So I think, to use somebody's secret weapon like this, that you should at least get the name right when you ask.
Can I borrow Thunderbolt? Thunderbolt!
Oh, thank God. Even though everyone's convinced he's not actually dead. Oh look, he's alive, what a shock. In fact, this movie really loves a good fake out death. I mean, really loves them. They get off to them. There's a really dark moment where Bale starts killing Jane right in front of Thor, forcing him to call the axe. Why doesn't he just use his thunder powers that he had in the previous film? Did they forget about those? He hasn't used them since. What is it with these movies and forgetting characters have superpowers? Pepper, Quill, Thor, they have superpowers, guys! We get the exact same generic battle of power you've seen in every movie ever, but Gore takes the axe away. I mean, Thor can just call it back, right? Why doesn't he just call it out of Gore? Oh, who gives a fuck? He also kidnaps the kids initially to lure Thor out to steal the axe, but then he keeps them around for some reason. Well, he doesn't even need them anymore. Why are they brought here? I must admit, Thor giving a motivational battle speech to a bunch of children is actually pretty funny. Look, it's the same generic battle we've now seen like 25 times before, so it's not new. But the fact that it's also a bunch of kids makes it seem meaningless. Don't get me wrong, an adorable little princess tying up a villain is quite funny. But come on, they're not a threat. They're being beaten by children. Why couldn't Marvel just have some balls and have all the kids get killed? Just imagine how dark that would have been. Thor gives them this big motivational speech and then they all instantly get slaughtered. Jane ends up disobeying Thor's orders and using the hammer once again, and there is quite a subtle moment where they lock eyes and he's completely heartbroken because he knows she's going to die, but he has to focus on stopping Gore instead. I'm also noticing a pattern here. Marvel really have a fetish for sympathetic villains, don't they? Why doesn't he just use his wish to heal himself, bring his daughter back and heal Jane? Can't he wish for multiple wishes? And look, another major character died. Jesus Christ, phase 4 is fucking miserable. My main issue is this whole movie is built up around Thor finally gaining happiness. He lost his mum, dad, brother, friends, the Avengers. He's lost fucking everything. It's all built up to him actually getting his happy ever after with Jane, and then they kill her off anyway. He ends up adopting Gore's kid, and I suppose that's kind of wholesome. He finally finds a purpose in life, but it's just so shoehorned at the end. Weirdly, both Waititi and Hemsworth weren't informed that they were going to announce Thor's return in the credits, so that should make the next one quite interesting. But it's okay, because after the credits we see Hercules, but nobody cares. And after the other credits, Jane enters Valhalla, the land of the gods. What a happy ending, even though they clearly set a bunch of rules about how to get into Valhalla earlier, and this doesn't make any fucking sense.
For a warrior to get into Valhalla, you have to die in the battle.
Well, I hate to be that guy, but Jane died after the battle of cancer. This movie sucks! The comedy is aged, but if at first they don't succeed, they try and fucking try again! The villain is pretty great but wasted. The stuff with Jane is illogical, which is a shame because Natalie Portman actually does a really good job as both the superhero and the dying Jane. Thor's character development and arc is attempted but wasted. Honestly, he really has a bad track record for his movies, and this was yet another shit stain on the underwear of his legacy. I'm Chandler Punisher Berry.